Every time a new Superman hits the screens, fans can't help but compare him to his previous iterations. It's all part of the appeal of comic book movies. Who's the truly overpowered Superman? Henry Cavill's Superman from the extinct DCEU, or the newest James Gunn version portrayed by David Corenswet? Power can be defined by way more than just physical strength, but it's still pretty important. So let's begin comparing these two Supermen. For his performance as the Man of Steel, Henry Cavill weighed around 220 pounds, keeping a body fat percentage of less than 7%. This means he was pretty much pure muscle. This, combined with his 6'1" height, made Cavill a true sight. According to recent claims, Corenswet bulked up for the role in James Gunn's Superman. The actor reached 240 pounds with this training. His body fat percentage hasn't been revealed, but we can only assume it's just as low as Cavill's. And since Corenswet is taller than Cavill, with a height of 6'4", he looks even bigger as Superman. Canonically, Superman is 6'3", which means Corenswet offers a more accurate rendition for the character when it comes to height. However, Superman is also around 225 pounds, so Cavill's weight might be more right for Superman. After all, the Man of Steel isn't all about his muscles. When being realistic, if we could see Cavill and Corenswet Superman side by side, it would be obvious that the latter is way bigger, so he gives off a way stronger vibe. Does this mean he's almost more powerful? Again, Superman is more than his muscles, so we need to consider his whole power set to decide. There are still plenty of aspects to consider before deciding who is the most powerful Man of Steel. While they're very physically similar, Henry Cavill and David Corenswet portray very different versions of Superman. This is a big part of why the fandom is so divided. These two heroes are barely similar, so every fan has their favorite. David Corenswet has earned everyone's love following the premiere of Superman thanks to how relatable he is. He's definitely a warmer character in every aspect. Not only is his suit brighter than Cavill's, but so is his personality. Corenswet's Superman strives to be closer to his human side. He imbues hope in others, and even Lois says it. He thinks everyone is beautiful. He thinks all lives are worth it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the time to save a squirrel, or even consider saving a whole kaiju. This personality makes Corenswet's Kal-El a more grounded hero. Even when he's a complete powerhouse, he doesn't present himself as such. Instead, he's highly approachable. So much that even other heroes scoff at his charisma, like the cynical Guy Gardner. On the other hand, Cavill's Superman gives a very serious vibe. This Man of Steel has an inevitable gravitas to his persona, so it's normal for some fans to feel put off by him. This Kal-El isn't evil, of course, but he's quite unapproachable. He's a serious man. Even if he's trying to do good, his demeanor is far from friendly. Both the movie and the fandom tend to throw around the word God to refer to this version of the character, and this makes perfect sense. Cavill's Superman is beyond humanity. He's far from hopeful. Instead, he's tormented by many different things, from the death of his father to Krypton's destruction. This constant anguish is so pivotal to the character that one of Cavill's most iconic lines as Superman is, "No one stays good in this world." We can't help but wonder if time will make the DCU Superman a more serious man eventually. While this happens, it's safe to say that Cavill's Superman conducts himself like a way more powerful superhero. Both Corenswet and Cavill portray a Kal-El who is in total control of his abilities, and has been for a while. This narrative opposes other variants of the Man of Steel, like My Adventures with Superman's Kal-El, or even Teen Clark in Smallville. Still, even though they're incredibly powerful and share the same skills, they don't use the Kryptonian power sets in the same way. For example, when it comes to their flight, Cavill's version generally takes flight with a sonic boom. But at times, he also just floats away mid-step, as if he could walk on air. There's definitely a learning curve, and Kal-El stumbles after an air current hits him, falling to the ground. But after this, it's obvious that the Man of Steel has gotten the hang of it pretty quickly. When it comes to flight and general speed, Cavill's Superman is incredibly fast. For example, during Man of Steel, he easily surpassed the speed of a formation of military jets, which are supposed to go Mach 3. In Justice League, he was able to reach the Flash, even though the Speedster is known for his incredible abilities. Kal-El moved fast enough that he was able to take Barry by surprise. Corenswet's Superman also flies, but he doesn't take flight in the same way as Cavill. Overall, he goes from walking to flying in a softer way. Even the special effects sound quieter. It isn't that Superman is slower, but his flying mannerisms are less violent than Snyder's Man of Steel. The new James Gunn film allowed Corenswet to showcase Superman's speed in the most classical ways. This Superman dodges bullets like it's nothing. He then flies and runs at ridiculous speeds to save lives. He moves throughout the whole battlefield, grabbing civilians and pulling them out of danger, or even covering them with his own body. Yeah, it's kind of funny. While Cavill's Superman uses his super speed primarily to punch faster than his enemies can register, Gunn wrote Superman to hurry and save as many people as he can. These two heroes have very different approaches to their work. Superman is among the strongest superheroes in the DC universe, so it's a given that any iteration of this character will be incredibly strong physically. However, even among the many versions of Superman that have existed, some of them are just stronger. Which one is it? Cavill or Corenswet? Let's check their feats. Not in that Tarantino kind of way.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
In Man of Steel, we first see adult Kal-El as he holds onto a burning oil rig to save the lives of its crew. He struggles to keep control of the structure, but not because he isn't strong. It's more of a matter of volume. This is far from the DCEU Superman's biggest accomplishment when it comes to showing his strength. Cavill's Superman can be seen manhandling pretty much every one of his enemies. We are talking gods and semi-gods being used as ragdolls by the Kryptonian. During Justice League, he was able to restrain Steppenwolf for a minute while Wonder Woman and Aquaman were incapable. He also overpowered Doomsday, who was genetically created to destroy Superman. In fact, Doomsday was able to defeat Wonder Woman, so we know he was stronger than an Amazonian warrior. Cavill's Superman has done more than overpower villains. He also managed to take down Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Aquaman, who went against him at the same time during Zack Snyder's Justice League. These are three incredible fighters with tons of resources, so this is no small feat. For example, he beat Wonder Woman in a tug-of-war fight with the lasso of truth. He was only using one hand while the heroine used her whole strength. It's safe to say he's the strongest member of the team. Even when he was only a teenager, Clark was able to lift a whole school bus that fell into a lake. Sadly, this actually got him in trouble. While Cavill's Superman had almost a decade of films to show his strength, Corenswet's version only has one movie so far. However, he was able to show his raw strength too. Not only because he was mostly able to contain Krypto, who has a completely unfiltered level of raw strength, but also because he was able to tear apart steel armor during his fight with the Hammer of Baravia. He also broke the super thick glass on Lex Luthor's cages at the Pocket Dimension with just a couple of punches. Additionally, he was able to stop a Kaiju from stepping on a dog. Aww, can you imagine how heavy a Kaiju leg must be? And he just held it for a couple of seconds as if it was nothing. This was truly the most Superman moment of the film. Superman has way more than super strength and super speed. He has a very iconic set of super abilities, including freeze breath, heat, and X-ray vision, and incredible super senses. Cavill's Superman actually grew up struggling with these abilities. The first things that emerged were his X-ray vision and his super hearing. In Man of Steel, there's an emotional flashback where Clark starts showing all these powers while in the middle of a middle school class. He panics due to the overstimulation and runs to hide in a closet. It takes Martha to guide him into focusing on her voice for him to come out. Corenswet's Superman didn't get this kind of a scene, but we're hoping he will in the future. It would be interesting to learn if this Kal-El struggled to manage these abilities like Cavill's did, or if he just embraced them once they became a thing. Another trademark super ability of Superman is his heat vision. Thanks to this laser beam coming out of his eyes, the superhero can burn things by just looking at them. Cavill's version is an expert with his heat vision. For example, he uses it to cauterize Lois's wound at the Fortress of Solitude. Do you have any idea the precision this requires so he doesn't turn her into toast? It's obvious he's been using it for a while at this point. Of course, he also uses it in battle, mostly as a way to cut into stuff coming his way. For example, Batman's artillery and Cyborg's tech. Those are some major explosions. Perhaps the best use of Cavill's heat vision takes place during his fight against Doomsday. In the height of the conflict, Kal-El uses his own lasers to try and overpower Doomsday's own heat vision. Sadly, the villain wins, but the Kryptonian holds on for a couple of seconds before. David Corenswet Superman only uses heat vision once in the film. This already tells you a lot about his sweeter nature. He uses the heat vision to take down a dozen Luthor minions, spinning to push them away while also hitting them with the rays. This scene doesn't pit Corenswet's heat vision against a big villain, nor showcase his precision with this ability. Still, it's a very cool moment. While Corenswet Superman doesn't use his heat vision in a big feat, he definitely takes advantage of his super breath while trying to escape Lex's pocket dimension and the antimatter river. This means his lungs are stronger than this astronomical object. Cavill Superman also uses his lungs in battle, but he leaves the big feats for other skills. He only uses his freeze breath to freeze Steppenwolf's weapon, making it easier to break. So this is a point for Corenswet, mostly because Cavill's Man of Steel barely uses his super breath. Likely because it doesn't look serious enough for a movie with a dark tone like the DCEU planned. Again, it's all about narrative intent and tonal choices for every movie. Overall, Corenswet Superman seems to be less skilled than his DCEU counterpart. But this isn't because he's bad at what he does, he's simply more inexperienced. He just debuted, so there's a chance he will become a true powerhouse in the future of the DCU. He's also potentially weaker. His bones break, he bleeds, and he lost a couple of fights. So if they're the same character, how come Henry Cavill's version of Superman is like the ultimate boss of a video game, while David Corenswet Superman bleeds? It's all about the intention of their respective films. Zack Snyder's plan for Cavill's Superman was always to have him be a god walking among mortals. Although this Superman is far from arrogant, he knows he's stronger, faster, and overall more powerful than anyone around him. And yes, this includes his superpowered friends. This mythical aura makes perfect sense for the DCEU, which tried to be a dark cinematic universe before it was rebooted. Who knows, maybe DC has plans to take things even further, and the DCEU's Kal-El was just set to take a darker path. We'll never know, because Peter Safran and James Gunn have new plans. And these plans obviously involve a different kind of Superman. Corenswet Superman isn't just younger or more inexperienced than Cavill's, he's also a different kind of man. He's hopeful, he's optimistic, and he's funny. This is also the tone for the movie. In the end, the main reason why this version of the Man of Steel is supposedly weaker is because he's more human. This makes him relatable, and it means the movie's stakes are higher. However, this doesn't mean the DCU Superman will always be weaker than the DCEU Superman. However, when it comes to controlling his powers, Corenswet's Superman journey has just begun. Well, the DCEU introduced a seasoned Superman who had been using his powers for around 2 decades, James Gunn offered the fans a version of Superman who has been a hero for only 3 years. According to the opening sequence, this means he still has plenty to learn. Only time will tell us what James Gunn has in store for the Man of Steel, but likely, as he grows older, he will show more control over his abilities. He'll probably never have Cavill's untouchable aura, but this doesn't mean he won't be able to accomplish incredible feats. After all, there are almost 90 years of great Superman adventures to inspire future films and future generations. Did you like David Corenswet's Superman? Or do you prefer Henry Cavill's version? Which one do you think is more powerful? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, thanks for watching CBR.